As we continue our look now at MIDI editing, we're going to be looking now at the same grid, except for we're going to be looking how it varies when we use a drum set like the Impulse. Now bear in mind we're also going to learn a few additional things about the grid down here. So if you've got access to the files, go ahead and open up MIDI editing and let's launch that, and then come over and select under Brain Tees in the upper left, choose Groove 1. Now again, I'm going to come down and hover my mouse here between the two and increase the size of this. And if you're over here on the left, you can change the zoom sometimes, but not with the window fully open. And across the top, the zoom is pretty much the same as we see in the other editors and the overview over in the range. Click and hold, drag down and up to change the zoom, and also moving right and left while you click hold will allow you to move at different spots. I can close the zoom in here a little bit more, and we can see the whole 4 bars. Now notice that over to the left, down the left, when we choose a drum machine like the Impulse, we no longer see a piano keyboard, but we see the actual sample names that we've given inside the Impulse. I'm going to double click on Brain Tees and take a quick look at that. So we here see the first one is a BD or bass drum, snare drum, low A sound. So we've got all these labels that we can create or that whoever creates a drum set can give us. Then when we come back to the editor, double clicking on the groove to go back to clip edit mode, we can see that again these names are reflected off to the left. We don't need access to the entire keyboard, just the drum sounds, and that's what they're giving us here visibly. Now earlier when we were editing MIDI velocities, it was changing brightness and or the volume. Let's listen to this by clicking on Groove 1's launch button here. I'm going to take all these spectral sounds here, select them simultaneously by clicking on this white box after it, and just like it did on the piano grid, when we click here it selects any notes that trigger this sound. And come down to any one of them. I'm going to take this one and pull its velocity down and make those softer hopefully. Let's listen again. So it got softer and lost some of the brightness. Even while it's playing on this. Okay, so I've adjusted that by ear until I like the amount of brightness in that sound. So that's a similar fashion. But one thing I do want to point out is if we look at this note here, watch the color of this rectangle as I change its velocity. I'm going to pull this all the way down. It gets fainter and fainter until it's basically almost completely white at the lowest velocity or strength of 1. As I keep my mouse held down and increase or go toward the top of the screen, we see that number go higher and the shade of the reddish color become more intense. So that's one way you can tell by looking out here in the grid how hard things may have been struck. So again, we see this same thing where we have the different notes of velocity down below, and we have lengths we can change. And a lot of times length will not matter on a drum sound. Let's listen. Turn the headphones on and click on this note. Now let's play it back, spacebar. I'm going to shorten that and listen for a difference. So again, length a lot of times does not make any difference in a drum sound. So this will vary on most sounds like keyboards, etc. That will make a difference, but for drum sounds they're oftentimes set to run and stop on their own. That won't always be true, especially if you see sounds like open or closed hi-hats. Now the fold button is enabled here. If we unfold it, we return back to a piano keyboard look. Now whenever we fold a track, we're saying just show me the parts that are being used, and that's imperative for when you're using an Impulse drum machine. It quickly narrows it down to just the drum sounds that the Impulse can play. Any of these other keys, even if we play them, they're not going to make any sound. Now some of these white keys will convert. I'll create a note now. I'm going to go to draw mode, Command B, add a note here, And we'll see that when we fold it up, it automatically keeps all these notes in here, even if we're not using them. I'm going to Command B, double click deletes, double click adds one. I can also hold down Option as before. I'm just going to add in, drag across both those. They're both selected. Hold down Option or Alternate again and move those all the way down here to bar 3. And let's listen. So create an extra one down here. Playing again. Let's select this one and increase its volume. So we can add in drum parts easily, change them around, and again you can go to draw mode and just experiment with adding in new sounds. Let's see what this one. Double click, and now I know what that sounds like. You can also play them from your keyboard. So we can see that we have the basic same editing techniques of lengthening and shortening, adding in notes, deleting notes. If it's selected, I simply press delete. This is true for both the piano view and the impulse drum view here. The velocities are down below, we can see all that. So that's the basic editing in MIDI.